Hello, my students, and welcome to the second episode in my series of preparing for American diploma. And in this episode, we are going to talk about expanding brackets. So, if I have a bracket like, let's say, x 3x plus 4 multiplied by x plus 2, how can we expand them? So I have a binomial, and what is the meaning of binomial? Binomial means the expression which has two terms. I have 3x, the first term, and I have the second term 4. Multiplied by binomial, it's x plus 2. So in this case, we are going to expand multiplying 3x by all terms of the second bracket. So 3x multiplied by x, it will be 3x squared. And 3x times 2, it will be 6x. Okay. And then multiply 4, the second term, by all terms of the second bracket. So 4 multiplied by x, it's 4x. And 4 multiplied by 2, it's 8. Now collect like terms. I have 6x and 4x. Add them together, we will get 10x. So 3x squared plus 10x plus 8. So remember this expression, which is 3x squared plus 10x plus 8. Because you are going to follow another way in expanding. Multiply the first by the first. I have 3x, it's called the first. And in the second bracket, x is the first. And 4. 4 is the second. And 2 is the second. So multiply the first by the first. 3x multiplied by x, it will be 3x squared. I multiplied the first by the first. After that, multiply the second by the second. 4 times 2, it's 8. Write it at the end, plus 8. And multiply extremes. And what I mean by extremes? Extremes means the first term in the first bracket and the second term of the second bracket. So multiply 3x, as you see, 3x by 2. They are called extremes. Multiply the extremes. 3x times 2, it will be 6x. And multiply the means. 4 times x is 4x. So 6x plus 4x, we will write in the middle, 10x. Once again, what I said, simply, I multiply the first by the first. 3x multiplied by x, 3x squared. And at the end, I multiply the second by the second. So 4 times 2, it will be 8. What is in the middle? In the middle is the product of extremes plus the product of means. So multiply the extremes. 3x multiplied by 2, it will be 6x. And multiply the means 4x. So the extremes plus the means equals 10x. So we are going to write in the middle plus 10x. And I recommend using this way, which is, let's move to the second example. I have x and x minus 6 multiplied by 6x plus 1. So determine the first. The first is x, and the first is 6x. Okay? Multiply the first by the first. X times 6x equals 6x raised to the power of 2. After that, multiply the second, negative 6, by 1. So when multiplying negative times positive, it's negative, and 6 times 1, it's 6. Okay? And what is in the middle? As I said, the term which is in the middle is the product of extremes plus the product of means. So let's multiply the extremes. X multiplied by 1, it's x. And the means negative 6 times 6x, it's negative 36x. You know x means 1x. So I'm adding them, 1x and minus 36x, it will be negative 35x. So we are going to write in the middle, negative 35x. Let's try another one. This one, which is 2x plus 5 multiplied by 2x minus 3. Determine the first 2x and the first is 2x. Okay, multiply the first term by the first term. 2x multiplied by 2x, 2 times 2, it's 4x squared. And multiply the second is 5 multiplied by negative 3. And as you know, positive times negative. Positive times negative, it's a negative. And 5 multiplied by 3 is 15. What is in the middle? In the middle is the product of extremes plus the product of means. The product of extremes, they are the extremes plus the product of means. So let's multiply the extremes. 2x multiplied by negative 3, it's going to be negative 6x. They are negative 6x, the result from the product from multiplying the extremes, 2x and the negative 3. And the means, 5 times 2x, they are called the means in the middle. So 5 times 2x, it will be 10x. And add them, the total of negative 6x and plus 10x, it will be 4x. So we're going to write in the middle plus 4x. What if I have x plus 3 squared? You know, the meaning of that simply, it's x plus 3 multiplied by x plus 3. So we can follow the same steps, which is the first by the first, x times x, it's x squared. And the second by the second, 3 times 3, it will be 9. Write it at the end. And what is in the middle? The product of extremes plus the product of means. X multiplied by 3, 3x. And 3 times x, it will be 3x. So add them, 3x plus 3x, 6x. And this is the square of a binomial. We can expand it directly by following this rule. The first square and the second square. What is in the middle is the first term multiplied by the second term times 2. Let's apply this rule. So what's the meaning of the first square? The first square means to multiply x by itself. So x times x is going to be x squared directly. And the second square, 3 multiplied by 3, it will be plus 9. Then multiply the first by the second times 2. So x times 3, 3x times 2, 6x. So we're going to write in the middle plus 6x. And let's follow the same rule in question A. 3x minus 4 squared. Take it one by one, step by step. So 3x multiplied by itself. I said the first square. So 3x multiplied by 3x, it will be 9. 3 times 3, 9, and x times x, x squared. So it's 9x squared. Why? Because I said 3x, the first multiplied by itself, 3x. The second is square, negative 4 multiplied by negative 4. Negative times negative, positive, and 4 times 4 will be 16. So we write at the end plus 16. The first square, the second square, and what is in the middle? The first, which is 3x, multiplied by the second, which is negative 4, multiplied by 2. So positive times negative times positive, it will be negative. And we can put the sign directly. Okay, and 3 times 4, 12. 12 times 2, it's 24. So we write negative 24x. Once again, I found the first square. What the meaning of the first square? It's multiplying the first by itself. So 3x multiplied by 3x give us 9x squared. And the second square, negative 4 multiplied by negative 4, plus 16. What is in the middle? The first multiplied by the second. I mean by the first 3x. I mean by the second negative 4. So I multiplied 3x by negative 4, which is negative 12 multiplied by 2, negative 24x. That's it. Let's go to the next one. What if I have x plus 3 multiplied by x minus 3? You know, in this case, you are going to multiply, as I explained before at the beginning of the session. Multiply the first by the first. So x times x, it's x squared. And the second multiplied by the second, plus 3 times negative 3, it's negative 9. After that, the product of extremes, negative 3x, plus the product of means, 3x. So negative 3x plus 3x equals 0. And there is no need to write in 0 in the middle, because 0 has no effect. So just leave it as x squared minus 9. Now, why did we get 0 in the middle? Why did we get 0 in the middle? Because the product of extremes and the product of means are the same, but different in signs. So when adding them, we get 0. So what is the idea? If we look at the question again, let's analyze it. It's x plus 3 multiplied by x minus 3. What do you observe? We observe that the first bracket is the same as the second bracket, but they are different in the sign and between them. They are different in this sign, plus and minus. So in this case, we can multiply the first by itself square. We can say that the first square minus the second square. You know, 3 times 3, the second square, because they are the same, 3 and 3. So we can say the first square minus the second square. So once again, if I have x plus 5 multiplied by x minus 5, what do you notice? We notice that they are the same, but they are different in signs in between them. So in this case, multiply x by itself. We can say simply the first by the first, because they are the same. And we can say the first square. So x multiplied by x, it will be x squared minus 5 multiplied by itself, 25. Okay. Let's go to the next one. How can we factorize? And the meaning of factorizing in general. If I have something like 36, what is the meaning of factorizing 36? To write 36 as a product of two numbers or three numbers, stuff like that. So we can factorize 36 as 9 times 4. And 9 is called a factor. And at the moment 4 is called a factor. Okay. So the meaning of factorizing is to write the expression as a product of two or more than two expressions. So what about x squared plus 6x? You know, in this case, you should know what the meaning of x squared. X squared means x multiplied by x. Okay. And 6x means what? Means 6 multiplied by x. Let's analyze it again. The meaning of x squared, it's x times x, this one, plus 6x, it's 6 multiplied by x. We observe that we have a common factor, which is x, is repeated in the two terms. So write x at the very beginning and open two pairs of arcs. You left with x, because we have taken this x, and you left with 6. And this kind of factorizing is called factorizing by taking highest common factor. This kind of factorizing is factorizing by taking highest common factor. Let's move to the next one. I have 2x squared plus 6x, and as you know, let's look at the coefficients of them, 2 and 6. 2 and 6 are divisible by 2. We can divide 2 by 2 to get 1, and we can divide 6 by 2 to get 3. So we can write 2x squared as 2 multiplied by x multiplied by x plus 6x. You know, 6 we can write it as 2 times 3 times x. What is the highest common factor? Look at the repeated factors. We have 2 is repeated, and we have x is repeated. So we'll write 2x, and we will open 2 arcs and write inside. You left with x in the first term because we have written 2x as a factor. We have written 2x as a factor, okay? And plus 3. Let's go to the next one. 6, the first term is 6, and the second term is 18x squared. You know, 6 and 18 are divisible by 6, the highest number. I know that 6 is divisible by 2 and 18 is divisible by 2 also. And 6 and 18 are divisible by 3. Yes, I know. But I'm searching for the highest common factor. So 6, we can write it as 6 times 1. And 18, we can write it as 6 times 3. The highest factor, 6. So we write 6 as 6 times 1 plus 18, 6 times 3. And x squared, there is no need to write x times x because there is no factor in the first term. So, or we can write as x times x. I write all components, all the components of the term. So what is the common factor? The common factor is 6. So take 6 as a factor. Okay. Then open brackets. You left with 1 plus 3. And don't write x times x, just combine them again, it's x squared. Okay. What if I have x plus 7 times x plus 1? You know, as I said, let's revise it again. Multiply the first by the first, x squared, the second by the second, 7. What is in the middle? X plus 1, x times 1, x, and 7 times x, 7x. Add them together, it's 8x. So we write in the middle plus 8x. Okay. What if I want to go back and factorize? So focus on what I'm saying. This form is factorizing, to factorize. And this form is the expanding. Expand. So when it comes to factorizing an expanded expression like this one, how can we factorize it? How can we go back to x plus 7 and x plus 1? Okay, so we first step, we will open two pairs of arcs. And x squared, you know that x squared came from what? Came from multiplying the first by the first. So right at the very beginning, x and x. What about 7? 7 came from multiplying the second by the second. So how can we get 7? We can get 7 from multiplying 7 times 1. And what is in the middle? You know, the middle is the product of extremes plus the product of means. So what is in the middle again? What about 8x? 8x is the sum of extremes plus the sum of means, the sum of extremes and means. So we write plus 7 and plus 1. And let's analyze it again. We are searching for two numbers, their product 7. Two numbers, their product 7. When multiplying them, we get 7. And when adding them, we will get 8. So it's 7 and 1. What if I have x squared? And at the end, I have 12 plus 12. And in the middle, I have, let's say, 7x. As I explained, how can we factorize? We will open two pairs of arcs. And x squared came from x and x. What about 12? You know, we want to find two numbers. The product 12, and their sum 7. What are they? So the two numbers, the product 12 and their sum 7. So 12 is the product, the multiplication. I means by the product, the times multiplication. And 7 is the sum. So two numbers, their product 12 and their sum 7. So the two numbers are 4 and 3. When multiplying them, we get 12. And when adding them, we get 7. So write plus 4 and plus 3. To understand the 12, just focus on the second example. I'm going to try it here now. X squared. And I'm going to try it at the end plus 12. But I write in the middle plus 8x. So x squared, all of us know that x squared is x times x. What about 12? Two numbers, the product 12 and their sum 8. Search for two numbers, the product 12 and their sum 8. Don't say 4 and 3. You know why? 4 and 3. is not right, it's wrong, because 4 times 3, I know it's 12. But when adding 4 plus 3, we will get 7. And I need 8. So the two numbers are going to be 6 and 2. Why? Because 6 times 2 equals 12, and 6 plus 2 equals 8. So we're going to try it plus 6 and plus 2. That's it. What if I have x squared, and at the end I'm going to write minus 12, and here minus 4x. You know that the negative 12 is the product and the negative 4 is the sum. So we can do a lot of guesses. We can do try many trials to find the two numbers, the product negative 12 and they add up to negative 4. So the two numbers which multiplying them leads to get negative 12. Let's try. So negative 12 came from two numbers. One of them is positive and the other one is negative. So after trying many guesses and many trials, you will end up with negative 6 and 2. You know, multiplying negative 6 by 2, it's negative 12, and adding negative 6 plus 2, it's negative 4. So we will factorize it and write x times x, and we write negative 6 and plus 2. And we can check it out. If we multiply the x by x, again, x by x, it's x squared. And if we multiply the, negative 6 by 2, it's negative 12. The second by the second. And if we tried the extremes, it's 2x. And if we multiply the means, it's negative 6x. Adding them, it will be negative 4x. So in the middle, negative 4x. Okay. Let's try some examples. I want to factorize x squared plus 9x plus 14. So we are searching for two numbers, the product 14 and their sum 9. So it's 7 and 2. When multiplying them, 7 times 2 is 14. And when adding them, 7 plus 2, it's 9. So we will write x plus 7 and x plus 2. What about question C? X squared minus 11x plus 30. We need two numbers, the product 30 and their sum negative 11. We can try, let's say 10 and 3. You know, if we multiply 10 by 3, it's 30, so I'm right. But when adding them, 10 plus 3, 13. So it's a false trial. Try again. If we write negative 10 and negative 3, and multiply negative times negative positive, and 10 times 3, 30. Yes, that's right. And when adding them, you will end up with negative 13. So it's a false trial. We can take instead 6 and 5. 6 times 5, 30, that's right. But when adding them, it will be 11. 6 plus 5. But I need negative 11 in the middle. Let's focus on the middle term again. It's negative 11. So once you see in the middle a negative number and at the end the positive, so the two numbers must be negative. So let's try negative 6 and negative 5. When multiplying them, negative times negative positive, and 6 times 5, 30. And when adding them, negative 6 plus negative 5, yes, that's right, it's negative 11. So we will write x minus 6 multiplied by x minus 5. Let's try this one. X squared minus 8x plus 12. Okay, it will be two numbers, their product 12 and their sum 8. I think it's negative 6 and negative 2. When multiplying them, it's x squared and x, the first by the first, x squared, the second by the second. Negative 6 times negative 2, it's 12. And the product of extremes plus the product of means, it's negative 8. What about this one? In this example, we couldn't say two numbers, the product 1 and their sum 3. You know why? Because I have a number in front of x squared. So in this case, we will try many guesses and many trials just to get the middle term. And you know 2x squared, it will be 2x times x. And 1, it's 1 times 1. 1 times 1. So if we tried it, 2x times x, it's 2x squared. And 1 times 1, 1. And if you try the product of extremes plus the product of means, the extremes 2x and the means 1x, it will be 3x. What about this one? 5x squared. So 5x squared, it's 5x times x. And negative 2, we want to find two numbers, the product negative 2. But the sum of the extremes plus the sum of means is negative 9. So let's try something like negative 1 and times 2. So if we multiply the 5x times x, it's 5x squared. And if we multiply the second by the second, it's negative 2. So I'm right. I'm right till now. And if we multiply the extremes plus the product of means, it's 10x minus 1x. So it will be 9x. We're right in the middle plus 9x. And this trial is not right. It's a false trial because we need negative 9x in the middle. So we can just switch signs between 1 and negative 1 and 2. So we can try 5x times x, but just change the sign of negative 2. And let's try it. If we multiply the first by the first, it's 5x squared. If we multiply the second by the second, it's negative 2. So I'm right till now. And if we try to multiply the extremes plus the means, so it's negative 10x and plus x. When adding them, yes, that's right, it's negative 9x. So we're right in the middle, negative 9x. So I'm right. So how can we factorize it? We will write 5x plus 1 multiplied by x minus 2. What about y squared minus 42? You know, there are two terms, not three terms. They're called binomial. And if we focus on y squared and minus 400, you'll find that y squared is a square number. And 400 is a square number. The meaning of a square number has a square root. So how can we factorize it? Y squared is going to be y and y. If you remember, I explained the expanding at the beginning of the session. So minus 400. What is the square root of 400? It's a 20. So write plus 20 and minus 20. You know why? Because I'm trying to multiply two brackets which are the same but different in signs, because leads to get two terms, and if you tried it again, let's try to multiply them again. Y times y, it's y squared, and the second by the second, it's negative 400. And what is in the middle? You will see that the middle, the extremes plus the means, it will be 0, so it's y squared minus 400. So when factorizing binomial difference between two squares like x squared minus 25, how can we factorize it? What is the kind of factorizing? It's difference between two squares. So open two pairs of arcs, x squared, it will be x, and 25, it's a square number, so plus 5 and minus 5. Let's go to the next one. We are about to finish. So 3x squared minus 75. Firstly, I have a common factor. 3 and 75 are divisible by 3. So we'll take 3 as a factor. And then 3x squared divided by 3, it will be x squared. And negative 75 divided by 3, it will be negative 25. So it will be 3, and x squared minus 25, it's a difference between two squares. So how can we factorize it? We will write x times x, it's x squared, and plus 5 minus 5. What if I have x squared minus 64? X squared is a square number. The meaning of that has a square root. And 64 is a square number, has a square root. So how can we factorize it? We will open two pairs of arcs and we'll write the square root of the first, it's x, and the square root of the second, once positive 8, and the next one is negative. I hope you enjoyed this session. See you the next session. Goodbye.